Hello and welcome to today's book summary. Today we'll be discussing Carol Leonnig's book, Zero Fail: The Rise and Fall of the Secret Service. Leonnig is a veteran American journalist and Pulitzer Prize winner. On July 13, 2024, former U.S. President and Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump was attacked by a gunman at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania. Although Trump only suffered minor injuries and the attacker, Crooks, was killed on the spot, this incident caused significant uproar. U.S. media directed their criticism towards the government agency responsible for security, the Secret Service. They believed the Secret Service's negligence led to the attack. For instance, the Wall Street Journal stated that given the last assassination attempt on a former or sitting U.S. president was the Reagan shooting in 1981. This was the Secret Service's most serious failure in over 40 years. The Secret Service, an agency under the Department of Homeland Security, is responsible for protecting the U.S. president and government officials. In U.S. government communications and Hollywood productions, Secret Service agents are portrayed as calm, tireless heroes in black suits, sunglasses, and earpieces, equipped with high-tech weapons. As of 2022, the U.S. Secret Service had 7,000 agents with an annual budget of $2.2 billion. Due to its confidential mission, the true nature of the U.S. Secret Service has long been shrouded in mystery. However, Leonnig reveals a Secret Service starkly different from its public image. Beneath the officially cultivated image of superhero-like men in black lie numerous problems and deficiencies. These range from budget and staffing shortages to a complex and rigid leadership system, as well as internal conflicts with other U.S. intelligence and security departments. Leonnig bluntly criticizes in the book's preface that the Secret Service's 40-plus years of zero-incident record in presidential security can be largely attributed to sheer luck. This prolonged period of peace has led to a decline in the service's effectiveness, morale, and security technology, gradually turning this once formidable department into a toothless tiger. Leonnig even predicts that without drastic reforms, a serious security incident targeting the U.S. president or high-level government officials is imminent. Given that this book was published in 2021 and the Trump Pennsylvania attack occurred just 3 years later, her words appear prophetic. Carol Leonnig, a senior reporter for The Washington Post, has long covered U.S. government-related news. She won the 2015 Pulitzer Prize for her series of in-depth reports exposing the inner workings of the U.S. Secret Service. This book is based on that award-winning series. To complete this book, Leonnig spent 6 years interviewing over 180 current or retired Secret Service agents, supervisors, and directors, as well as numerous U.S. government officials and members of Congress, accumulating nearly 1,000 hours of interview records. This book can be considered the most comprehensive and authoritative work on the history and inner workings of the U.S. Secret Service. Next, following Leonnig's narrative, we'll explore the unknown truths behind the U.S. Secret Service. 1. Early years. The Secret Service was born during a tumultuous, divisive, and traumatic darkest hour in American history. On April 14, 1865, President Lincoln was assassinated at Ford's Theater in Washington. 3 months later, a new government law enforcement security department, the predecessor of today's Secret Service, the U.S. Treasury Department's Secret Service Bureau, was established. Many might assume that Lincoln's tragic assassination made the U.S. government realize the importance of presidential security, leading to the creation of the Secret Service. However, this was not the case. In fact, the Secret Service was not established to protect the personal safety of the U.S. president and other government officials, but to combat another increasingly rampant crime: counterfeiting. The American Civil War had caused severe inflation, with both the Northern federal government and the rebellious Southern Confederacy printing money at full capacity to raise war funds. This resulted in a large increase in the quantity of circulating banknotes of poor quality. Underground criminal groups across the states seized this opportunity to produce counterfeit money for profit. Statistics show that by the end of the war in 1865, 1/3 of the paper currency in circulation in the United States was counterfeit. To combat counterfeiting, Lincoln, following the advice of Treasury Secretary McCulloch, decided to establish a separate law enforcement department within the Treasury, the Secret Service Bureau. Unfortunately, Lincoln himself did not live to see the establishment of this agency. The first chief of the Secret Service Bureau, Wood, was an efficient cavalry officer who had participated in the investigation of Lincoln's assassination. Initially, Wood had only 10 agents under his command. Besides combating counterfeiting, the early Secret Service Bureau's responsibilities included fighting various serious crimes such as bank robbery, bootlegging, and gambling. Its duties were not fixed, nor were its specific staffing and funding. The total number of staff was only about 20. In today's terms, the initial Secret Service Bureau was essentially a temporary ad hoc organization. However, 2 subsequent presidential assassination events fundamentally changed the status and mission of the Secret Service Bureau. The assassination of President Garfield in 1881 and the assassination of President McKinley at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo in 1901. If we include Lincoln's assassination in 1865, we find that in less than 40 years, 3 sitting U.S. presidents had met with unexpected deaths. Consequently, the U.S. Congress finally passed legislation acknowledging that the daily security of the president and other government officials needed to be handled by a permanent professional department. Since Secret Service agents had long been informally involved in protecting successive presidents, this security duty became the Secret Service's primary responsibility. In reality, due to the lack of professional training for Secret Service personnel and incomplete organizational structure, the first few U.S. presidents who received Secret Service protection did not think highly of it, believing it was less effective than police or professional soldiers. President Theodore Roosevelt even told a friend directly, "If a serious, determined assassin appears, these so-called agents will certainly be of no use at all." However, on November 1, 1950, Secret Service agents finally had their vindication. At the time, as the White House was undergoing internal renovations, President Truman was temporarily residing in the nearby Blair House. 2 Puerto Rican extremists saw this as an opportunity, believing that if they could assassinate the U.S. president, the U.S. government would surely stop interfering in Puerto Rican internal affairs. These 2 attackers, in broad daylight, approached the entrance of Blair House with guns in hand. The 2 Secret Service agents on duty at the entrance, Boring and Caufelt, immediately drew their weapons and engaged in a brief but intense firefight with the 2 assassins. In the end, both assassins were killed on the spot, while Caufelt was shot and later died in the hospital due to severe injuries, becoming the first and so far only Secret Service agent to die in the line of duty during a presidential protection operation. Afterwards, Truman immediately held a press conference, claiming on one hand that as president, he had long been prepared for such dangerous situations, while on the other hand emphasizing that the efficient and professional Secret Service was his most reliable security guarantee. Due to this successful operation, the Secret Service expanded rapidly in the 1950s. By the early 1960s, the Secret Service had 300 agents and an annual budget of $5 million. However, with the rapid rise of the United States as a superpower after World War II, the size of the U.S. government and the number of various foreign affairs activities also grew exponentially, making the Secret Service feel understaffed and overextended. Author Leonnig states that at this time, although the Secret Service had over 300 agents, the vast majority were distributed in field offices across other states. Only 34 people were directly responsible for security work around the president in the White House. They typically worked in teams of 6, working 8-hour shifts to guard the president. At that time, the recruitment standards for Secret Service agents were relatively simple. Around 20 years old, with a college degree and military service or police experience. If a candidate finally passed the test and became a Secret Service agent, they would find that the Secret Service did not provide systematic professional training for newcomers. Each new agent was told to quickly get up to speed by learning from senior colleagues or superiors while on duty. However, what troubled the Secret Service even more was the arrival of a charismatic but troublesome new president, John F. Kennedy. 2. Facing a major setback. Kennedy, 43 years old when elected, was charismatic, energetic, and always the center of attention. What troubled the Secret Service was Kennedy's deliberate effort to cultivate an image of intimate, direct contact with the American public. He would even impulsively ditch his Secret Service security detail to enjoy moments of freedom. An agent named Lawson, who served in White House security during Kennedy's era, recalled that agents liked Kennedy because he was easygoing, loved organizing social events with celebrities, and would take time out of his busy schedule to meet agents' families and express gratitude. However, this mischievous president also loved to play pranks that gave them headaches. For instance, in August 1962, while vacationing at Santa Monica Beach in California, Kennedy suddenly had an idea. Taking advantage of the agent's momentary inattention, he left his luxurious villa and went alone to the public beach for a swim. In an instant, hundreds of beachgoers recognized him, shouting, "The president is here." Many even jumped into the sea trying to get close to Kennedy. The Secret Service agents who rushed to the scene could only call for support from Marine patrols and police, while hastily setting up a security line on the beach. 4 agents were so anxious that they jumped into the water without even taking off their uniforms, trying to drag Kennedy back to shore. The scene was chaotic. Moreover, Leonnig writes in the book that due to Kennedy's well-known womanizing and enjoyment of female company in his private time, women of unclear identity would visit at night, whether at the White House, hotels during trips, or the president's private villa. These women were usually brought in by Kennedy's friend and assistant, Dave Powers. If the on-duty Secret Service agents wanted to follow procedure and investigate or register these women's identities, they would be politely refused by Powers. Many agents expressed that the president's chaotic private life indeed posed significant security risks. If among these women there were spies trying to gather classified information or assassins attempting to get close to the president, it would be a major problem. In the blink of an eye, it was November 1963, Kennedy, seeking re-election in the coming year, began his campaign tour. When the Secret Service supervisor looked at the president's November campaign itinerary, he was shocked. Within a month, Kennedy was to visit 9 cities in Florida and Texas in rapid succession. Such a high-density schedule posed unprecedented challenges for the Secret Service's security work. At noon on November 22, the Kennedys arrived at Dallas Airport on Air Force One. Having worked continuously for several days, the Secret Service agents were exhausted. Many experienced agents had not accompanied the president, but had gone ahead to cities like Austin to prepare for the president's subsequent visits. Moreover, hearing of the president's arrival, a large crowd of Dallas citizens gathered on the city streets, adding to the difficulty of the Secret Service's security work. This was because the day before, the local Dallas Morning News had prematurely published the approximate route of the presidential motorcade, and the Secret Service was powerless to prevent this. Worse still, to respond to the warm welcome from Dallas citizens, Kennedy once again changed the security plan on the spot. Conventionally, 6 agents should have used temporary footboards to stand on both sides and the rear of the president's luxury convertible to protect the first couple. But Kennedy waved this off, canceling the escort security and refusing to install a custom bulletproof glass shield on the car. As a result, the responsible Secret Service agents could only follow closely behind the president in a Cadillac. On Kennedy's vehicle, only Agent Kellerman, sitting in the front passenger seat, remained as security. Around 12:30 p.m., the presidential motorcade arrived at Dealey Plaza, preparing to turn onto Elm Street. Due to a sharp turn here, the motorcade's speed dropped to 9 to 15 kilometers per hour. Suddenly, a crisp gunshot rang out. Kennedy seemed to sense something amiss and stopped waving to the crowd. Secret Service agents Hill and Landis, standing on the rear car's running boards, sensed trouble and immediately started looking around, searching for suspicious signs in the crowd and building windows. However, before the agents on scene could react further, the fatal second and third shots followed in quick succession. One hit Kennedy's neck, and another hit the back of his head. Agent Hill jumped from the running board of the rear Cadillac, desperately rushing towards the president's convertible. He grabbed the handle on the trunk and began struggling to climb towards the Kennedys, trying to shield them with his body. Meanwhile, Agent Hickey in the Cadillac took out his equipped assault rifle, futilely aiming around, trying to locate the shooter and return fire. Hill later recalled that the interior of the president's car was a mess, as if a small bomb had exploded. He saw a pink mist of blood burst from the president's head before Kennedy slumped onto First Lady Jacqueline's lap. Hill then resolutely threw himself over, using his entire body to cover the Kennedys. Subsequently, under Kellerman's command, the entire motorcade sped towards nearby Parkland Memorial Hospital. However, it was all too late. At 1 p.m., Dr. Clark, the neurosurgeon in charge of the rescue, walked out of the operating room and solemnly announced the president had passed away. Instantly, the morale of the Secret Service plummeted to its lowest point. An agent named Lawson dejectedly said that he and his colleagues on duty that day had become the first agents to fail to protect the president since. The Secret Service took over White House security, the biggest failures in history. 3. Upgrading and rebuilding. After President Kennedy's assassination, criticism and doubts about the Secret Service flooded in from the outside world. Objectively speaking, however, this allowed Secret Service leadership to break free from previous constraints and begin sweeping reforms. For instance, Director Rowley initiated a series of changes. First, he recalled experienced agents from various branch offices to Washington, increasing the number of agents directly responsible for presidential security to 50%. Additionally, the overall size of the Secret Service was expanded once again. Rowley brought in 670 experienced staff from other units such as the FBI, further strengthening the Secret Service's intelligence analysis, file management, and counterterrorism technology departments. Moreover, Rowley approved an unprecedented technological upgrade for the Secret Service: the introduction of IBM's newly developed mainframe computers for data processing and file storage. Before this, the Secret Service's criminal suspect files were still using outdated physical paper records, requiring manual searching through vast numbers of index cards, which was extremely inefficient. Author Leonnig notes that from the 1970s to the 1980s, while the Secret Service's professional standards and response capabilities continued to grow, this growth was largely driven by a series of malicious attacks on U.S. presidents and other government officials. Examples include the 1972 assassination attempt on presidential candidate and Alabama Governor George Wallace, and the March 1981 shooting of President Reagan. During this period, the Secret Service implemented multiple upgrades to its management systems, agent security techniques, and equipment. For instance, the president and agents were required to wear bulletproof vests in public, and agents had to establish warning cordons in any public place where the president was staying. All agents underwent training in a fixed security procedure abbreviated as AOP, enabling them to control and disarm attackers while quickly evacuating the president from the attack scene in the shortest possible time. Furthermore, to address potential large-scale attacks on the president and officials, the Secret Service formed a special fire support group called the Counter-Assault Team, equipped with more advanced high-power automatic weapons and sniper rifles, capable of establishing absolute fire superiority over attackers immediately. With the support of then First Lady Nancy Reagan, the Secret Service established its first dedicated training center in Maryland in 1983. The center adopted training models from Special Forces, constructing a 500-acre simulated urban environment with buildings and streets, as well as a complex indoor close-quarters combat training center. Secret Service agents could regularly conduct specialized security training here, dealing with various emergencies, from long-distance sniping like Kennedy faced to close-range shooting like Reagan encountered. Besides this, agents received training in various specialized techniques, for example, how to drive vehicles with continuous direction and speed changes on streets, forming effective formations to cover protected individuals entering vehicles and buildings, and how to engage in close-quarters gunfights with terrorists on streets and indoors. With these training programs and measures, both the White House and the Secret Service entered a relatively safe period after the 1980s, with combat effectiveness and morale at their peak. Multiple assassination attempts on presidents were nipped in the bud by the Secret Service's security measures. For instance, a mentally ill veteran named Dog Nerdy attempted to assassinate President George H.W. Bush during his visit to Detroit in April 1989. However, upon arrival at the scene, Dog Nerdy found that security measures at Bush's speech venue were tight. All spectators had to pass through metal detectors guarded by Secret Service agents to enter the venue, and any vantage points with a clear view of the presidential podium were patrolled by Secret Service agents. Finally, a discouraged Dog Nerdy had to abandon his plan. 4 months later, Dog Nerdy was arrested by police during a failed bank robbery attempt. During interrogation, he confessed to his crimes, including this foiled assassination attempt on President Bush. Entering the 21st century, the Secret Service's burden became even heavier as the list of individuals they needed to protect kept growing. Beyond the president, high-ranking government officials, and visiting foreign dignitaries, they now had to protect presidential candidates during each election cycle. In 2008 alone, the Secret Service spent over $100 million on security for presidential candidates, mainly due to the emergence of Barack Obama, the African-American Democratic candidate. His candidacy enraged some extreme racist groups in America. In fact, in August 2008, when Obama went to Denver, Colorado, to attend the Democratic National Convention, the Secret Service worked closely with the FBI to thwart an assassination attempt against Obama. 3 members claiming to be from the extreme white supremacist organization Army of God checked into a hotel in Denver, carrying 2 rifles with sniper scopes, bulletproof vests, and wireless communicators. They planned to infiltrate the Democratic National Convention venue and shoot Obama when he took the stage to speak. After these 3 were arrested, the Secret Service remained vigilant. During Obama's speech, 2 large bulletproof shields were erected on both sides of the podium, and counter-sniper teams were deployed at vantage points near the venue. 4. A descent into dysfunction. Contrary to its storied reputation, the U.S. Secret Service has been grappling with systemic issues that overshadow any minor improvements. Many insiders, including author Carol Leonnig, attribute the service's decline in operational effectiveness and increased bureaucracy to its 2003 transfer to the Department of Homeland Security. Former agent Dan Bongino likened this merger to a nimble startup being swallowed by a sluggish conglomerate, resulting in a loss of agility and talent. Post-merger, the Secret Service found itself competing for resources within a larger bureaucracy, fostering a culture of risk aversion and stagnation. This decline manifested in alarming security lapses, such as the 2014 White House intrusion incident. An intruder managed to breach multiple security layers due to outdated infrastructure and operational failures, exposing glaring vulnerabilities in what should be one of the most secure locations in the world. The 2016 presidential election campaign of Donald Trump presented unprecedented challenges for the service. Violent clashes at rallies and Trump's controversial style stretched the agency's resources to their limits. The situation worsened after Trump's inauguration, with his large family and frequent travels to private properties significantly increasing the service's workload and expenses. Trump's presidency further strained the Secret Service. His distrust of the agency led to the dismissal of experienced personnel, while his apparent disinterest in crucial security upgrades left vulnerabilities unaddressed. An anonymous Homeland Security official starkly contrasted the real-world Secret Service with its Hollywood portrayal, suggesting a worrying gap between public perception and operational reality. Conclusion. All right, we've provided you with the essential content of the book Zero Fail: The Rise and Fall of the Secret Service. The author, Leonard Leo, a senior journalist at the Washington Post and Pulitzer Prize winner, meticulously recounts the history of the United States Secret Service, a specialized security agency that has operated in secrecy for over 150 years since its establishment in 1865. From its early days as a temporary law enforcement agency to its current role as the dedicated security force responsible for safeguarding us. Presidents and White House officials, the Secret Service's evolution mirrors America's transformation from a fledgling nation on the North American continent to a global superpower. However, as we enter the 21st century, the Secret Service faces unprecedented challenges and crises from both internal and external sources. Globalization and technological advancements have intensified the crises it must address, no longer dealing solely with isolated criminals. The Secret Service now contends with global terrorist organizations and transnational criminal networks. The widespread adoption of mobile internet facilitates their coordination and planning of diverse attacks. Moreover, emerging technologies like drones, 3D printed firearms, and cyber threats necessitate continuous technological upgrades for the Secret Service. Unfortunately, internal bureaucratic rigidity hampers its ability to respond swiftly to these evolving threats. Despite maintaining a remarkable record of over 40 years without major security incidents, from the attempted assassination of President Reagan in 1981 to the Trump assassination attempt in July 2024, Leonard Leo attributes this success to sheer luck. In summary, the above captures the essence of this book.